Hey everyone, you know how sometimes you see a headline and think, whoa, what's that all about?
Yeah, those ones that really grab you.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into something that caught my eye, the Phoenix Ghost drones in Ukraine. These things were totally secret for like 2 years. No one knew anything.
No kidding, just rumors and speculation.
And then, boom, Forbes drops this article and it's wild. It's all about how this company, Aevex Aerospace, went from basically no drone experience
Right.
to supplying thousands of these crucial weapons to Ukraine.
Is a pretty crazy story.
So let's get into it. What can you tell us about these Phoenix Ghost drones?
Well, we finally have some answers, and it turns out there isn't just one type, there are actually four. The Dagger, the Disruptor, the Dominator, and the Atlas.
Wow, a whole family of drones.
And Aevex has delivered over 5,000 of these to Ukraine, which is more than any other U.S. drone maker.
That's huge. They're really making a difference over there.
Absolutely, and the Pentagon has spent a lot of money on them, too. We're talking $582 million through mid-October.
So this is serious business. But what's really interesting is that Aevex wasn't some big-time defense contractor.
No, not at all.
They were a relatively small company before all this.
Yeah, they were founded back in 2008 by a former Air Force officer, Brian Rejoins.
And get this, he was actually involved in weaponizing the Predator drone after 9/11.
Right, so he definitely had some experience with military tech.
But even so, it's a big leap from modifying airplanes to building drones.
That's what makes this story so fascinating.
So how did they end up in the drone business?
Well, it all started when the war in Ukraine broke out.
Yeah.
The Pentagon basically put out a call for anything that could help stop the Russian advance.
I bet that was pretty chaotic, everyone trying to come up with something.
Oh, definitely.
But it seems like Aevex was in a unique position to respond.
They had this connection with another company called Tribe Aerospace. Tribe specialized in making those low-cost drone replicas for testing.
So like the kind they use for training exercises.
Exactly.
And they figured out how to use this technology to create actual weapons.
Yeah, pretty ingenious.
I'm curious about this first drone they developed, the Dagger.
Oh, the Dagger is an interesting story in itself.
What makes it so special?
Well, get this. They actually based it on a crashed enemy drone.
What? Seriously?
Yeah. A U.S. base had recovered it, and Aevex basically reverse engineered the thing.
That's incredible. So what was it like? Some high-tech piece of equipment?
Not exactly. They actually used a cardboard tube and carbon fiber wrapping to build the body.
Cardboard too? You're kidding.
Nope, that's how they did it.
Wow, talk about resourceful. But did it actually work?
Oh, yeah, and here's the crazy part. They were awarded the contract on Easter Sunday,
No way.
and they delivered 121 daggers within 3 months.
That's lightning fast. They must have been working around the clock.
Definitely. Plus, they were super cost-effective. Each dagger cost about $49,000. But if Russia used a missile to shoot it down,
Yeah.
that could cost them $500,000.
Wow, so it was a huge drain on their resources either way.
Right.
And this whole connection to the Air Force's big Safari unit.
Oh, yeah, that definitely helped them move quickly.
I bet.
Big Safari is all about rapid development and deployment.
So Aevex was perfectly aligned with their mission.
Absolutely.
It sounds like the Dagger was a game changer.
It was a perfect example of asymmetric warfare.
But the war in Ukraine is constantly changing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So did they just keep making more daggers?
Well, they actually started developing other drones, too, ones that were better suited to the evolving battlefield.
Like what?
Well, they made the Disruptor, which was designed for longer-range strikes.
Interesting.
And then there's the Dominator, which was even more sophisticated.
So they were constantly innovating.
Yeah, they had to stay ahead of the curve.
It sounds like a real-life arms race.
It was, and Aevex was right in the thick of it.
This is fascinating stuff, but before we get too deep into the tech, I think it's important to step back for a second.
Okay.
We're talking about weapons here,
Right.
about war, and that brings up some pretty serious ethical questions.
Absolutely.
It's not just about building cool drones, it's about the impact they have on real people.
Yeah, we can't lose sight of that.
So let's take a moment to consider those implications before we go any further.
It sounds good to me. So where were we? Oh, yeah, the Disruptor.
The one with the longer range?
Right, it could hit targets up to like 370 miles away.
Wow, that's a serious distance.
Think like fuel depots, ammo dumps, the stuff that keeps an army going.
Yeah, taking out those supply lines is crucial.
It's all about disrupting their ability to wage war.
And it was built for stealth, right?
Oh, yeah, black carbon fiber to blend in with the night sky.
So they were thinking ahead, anticipating how the Russians would adapt.
Definitely.
And then there was the Dominator, the even more sophisticated one.
That one was a beast.
What made it so special?
Well, it had a bigger payload capacity,
Meaning?
more explosives, or they could even equip it with surveillance gear.
So it could be an attack drone or a recon drone.
Exactly, a real
Oh.
multitasker.
That's impressive. But did they still use that cardboard tube design?
No, not for these ones.
I figured.
As the war changed, they had to up their game.
Makes sense.
They also realized that it wasn't just about the tech itself.
Oh,
It was also about how easy these drones were to use in a war zone.
that's a good point.
They had to be assembled quickly, launched easily.
Especially in those tough conditions.
Exactly.
Because if it takes too long to get the drone up,
You're putting the operator at risk.
right, the longer they're out in the open, the more vulnerable they are.
So they designed these drones for speed and efficiency.
Smart thinking.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing.
I bet there are some challenges.
One of the biggest was dealing with Russian countermeasures.
I can imagine.
As the war went on, the Russians got better at detecting and taking down drones.
That's a constant back and forth, right?
Oh yeah, a real cat and mouse game.
So how did Aevex keep up?
They had to analyze the data from every mission, figure out what worked, what didn't.
And then tweak their designs accordingly.
Exactly, they had to stay one step ahead,
It's like that saying, adapt or die.
pretty much.
So what did this experience teach them about the drone business?
Well, it showed them the importance of agility.
In what sense?
Being able to adapt quickly is crucial in this kind of environment.
You can't be bogged down by bureaucracy.
No way, you got to be able to make decisions fast.
And that's where Aevex really excelled.
They were willing to take risks, try new things, and most importantly, change course when needed.
That's a valuable lesson, especially in a field that's constantly evolving.
For sure.
So what's next for Aevex? Where do they go from here?
Well, they're definitely aiming high.
Oh.
Their CEO has talked about getting major contracts with the U.S. military,
Wow, that's a big step up.
even potentially supplying drones for a possible conflict with China.
That's a whole other level.
It is, but they seem confident.
Do you think they can pull it off?
It'll be tough, for sure.
They're up against some major players in the defense industry.
But their track record in Ukraine speaks for itself.
They've proven they can deliver results.
And they're not afraid to innovate.
That could give them an edge.
It might.
It's a pretty amazing story to go from this small company to a potential major player.
It's a real testament to their ingenuity and determination.
But let's not forget about the bigger picture here.
Right.
We're talking about weapons, about war, and that raises some serious ethical questions.
Absolutely.
We can't just focus on the technology itself. We have to think about the implications of its use.
It's a complex issue.
It is, and it's one that we need to address.
No doubt about it.
Because as drones become more common in warfare,
We have to make sure they're being used responsibly.
and ethically.
Exactly.
So let's dive into those questions now.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, it's kind of wild when you think about it. This tech is moving so fast.
It really is.
We're basically dealing with stuff that used to be science fiction.
Yeah, and it's forcing us to think about some tough questions.
Like, what are the rules of engagement for autonomous weapons?
Right, that's a big one.
Yeah. It seems like international law is struggling to keep up.
It's always playing catch up with technology.
So how do we make sure these drones are being used ethically?
Well, for starters, we need to have a global conversation
About?
about the implications of autonomous warfare.
And that conversation needs to involve everyone, right?
It's definitely.
Yeah.
It's not just for governments and military leaders.
This affects all of us.
Exactly. We all have a stake in this.
Think about it. The decision to use lethal force,
Could potentially be made by a machine.
that's a pretty scary thought.
It raises all sorts of questions about human control and accountability.
It's mind-blowing to think about where this could lead.
We're in uncharted territory here.
But this deep dive into the Phoenix Ghost drones,
It's been a real eye-opener, hasn't it?
definitely, it's shown us how fast things are changing.
And how this small company,
Aevex,
right, Aevex, they've managed to disrupt the whole industry.
it makes you wonder what the future holds.
Will we see more companies like them?
Blurring the lines between traditional defense contractors and these smaller, more agile players.
And how will that affect the balance of power?
So many questions.
And not a lot of easy answers.
But one thing's for sure,
Drones are here to stay,
and they're going to play a bigger and bigger role in warfare.
which is why it's so important to have these conversations now.
Before it's too late,
Exactly.
we need to be thinking about the ethical implications, the potential risks.
And the safeguards we need to put in place.
Technology is a powerful tool, but it's up to us to use it responsibly.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And if you want to learn more about this whole Phoenix Ghost story,
Be sure to check out that Forbes article.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
It's a fascinating read.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you found this deep dive informative.
And thought-provoking.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.